thanks for staying with us. Now, in addition to the directive that all the entourage to state and international events be drastically reduced by 60%, the president has also directed that on every local trip of the government, the security details will be drafted from the host state. So that means there's no need going with a security detail. Now, according to the new directive, the president will now travel with only 20 officials. Unlike before, the number was, I think, over 50 people. The vice president will now travel with 5 officials. The first lady and the wife of the vice president also will travel with 5 officials, respectively. Now, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, disclosed this while briefing State House correspondents in Abuja on Tuesday. The presidential spokesman said that the essence of the reduction was to bring total sanity and prudence in the management of resources in the country. Well, that said, we'll now be joined by first studio guest Kingsley Obom-Egbulem, media communication specialist and social entrepreneur in Lagos. Thank you so much, Kingsley, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We also have joining us Dr. Olayinka Oyebile, the CEO, Double O Communications and journalist. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us as well.
Thank you very much.
All right. I'll start off with Kingsley. I mean, we've seen what the development is, and I do remember the story, one funny video that, kind of made rounds on social media where the entourage of, I can't remember which of the ministers now, or one of the VIPs, somebody came to open the door and another person opened the door for the person that opened the door. And people were like, what is it?
Even the entourage has a
security has security.
An entourage too.
Exactly. Yeah. So now the president is saying they want to reduce the entourage and security detail generally by 60%. Yeah. And people are saying that what was the need of so many people in the first place? So what are your thoughts on the excessive entourage of VIPs in Nigeria even before this directive came?
Well, it is in our nature. We are a very wasteful society, and that's the truth. This is the only place where somebody's buried. And after 1 year, sometimes even 5 years, you want to turn the person on the other side. Said, this party where you attend a party and you hear the person died like 10 years ago and now they want to bury the person and you're wondering, hey, come on, what did you do the last time the guy was interred? This is a place where someone tells you there's a 40-day prayer and all of that. So we look for opportunities to spend money. That's the truth. You're going for I was reading an article, was in a social media video where a woman was actually counting how much she saved from Ashwebi for not buying Ashwebi, and it was in the millions. Mm-hmm. So this is who we are. We are very...
Millions is kind of an exaggeration, though.
But that's the truth. That's the truth. That's actually the truth. I mean, the lady said she buys everything. And this Ashwebi is not just Ankara. Yeah. You have the damask, you have laces, you have, just name it. So by the time you buy this and you have a lot of friends and family members who party, by the end of the year, you would have sent so much money, So right. that's who we are. And so when we move into governance with this mindset, come on, we spend money. I recall a day where a friend was having his son's first birthday anniversary. This boy cannot talk, does not even understand what is happening, and they block the entire street. Mm-hmm. That is who we are. If that guy gets into government, I can tell you he will do similar things. So it is our nature, and then you ask yourself, how productive can you be if all you're so creative in spending? You can come up with all the excuses to throw a party, to travel with a large entourage. And those who we run to for money, they cross their legs and they watch and look at us and say, these guys they are barely living, and see what they're spending. Our debt, as at end of September, our national debt was about 87 trillion naira. That's crazy. That's crazy. And if you notice, it rose about 75% in 3 months under this administration. So you were handed a bleeding patient. Now, you, rather than stop the bleeding, you continue to bleed this patient. You took 1,114 people to Dubai, for God's sake. Spent 2.7 billion naira.
He took the whole conference attendees.
1,000, you know, when you hear 1,000, imagine a campus, a university campus.
Yeah.
It's like you carry everybody on campus to Dubai. So that is our nature. But I'm glad that I hope this is going to be a trend. I hope this will continue, because this is one government that is currently shopping for credibility.
Right.
This government is shopping for, goodwill locally. So if they continue this way, we might have something pleasant to say about them.
Okay, let me hear Doctor's opinion. Dr. Oyebile, what do you think about the whole excessive entourage and the decision now to cut it by 60%? Do we have Dr. Olayinka?
Yes, if it is not just for the optic, hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
If it is not just for the optic, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing because you begin to ask yourself, what exactly was the president or the government entourage? What would they do with a very large entourage every time they move out? And then the issue of making
Okay, we're having some challenges with Dr. Olayinka's audio. We're going to try and get that fixed, but in the meantime, let me come back to Kingsley. Now, one of the reasons that, according to Ajuri Ngelale, who gave the announcement, the reason they gave was they're trying to bring...
They used the word total sanity.
Total sanity. Thank you very much. So that was my point.
That caught my attention.
So it was two major things there: total sanity and then management of resources. So let's take it one after the other. Total sanity. And when I read that, the first thing that came to my mind was, lots of times you're driving on the road and then you just hear a siren from nowhere. And in fact, you see this thing they call koboko, that they're trying to flog your car off the road. I don't understand the rationale behind that. But do you think that I don't know, what is the point of all of this in the first place? And do you think that their aim will be achieved?
When he mentioned the word total sanity, you know what came to my mind? It was the chaos, the drama you experience at the airport when these guys are traveling.
Right.
Maybe they want to sanitize the drama that accompanies the president and public office holders whenever they travel. It's crazy. So if that is it, I think, well, good for them. But there's a lot crying for attention in this country. And for me, what is priority is the fact that we are bankrupt. As a country now, we are financially bankrupt and we are morally bankrupt as a nation. And this dual bankruptcy is not something that reducing an entourage would cure. No, it is too fundamental. Because even if you bring money into Nigeria, if you give us 87 trillion naira now and say, we dash you guys, the moral bankruptcy will flings this money in seconds. So we need to begin to address our moral bankruptcy. You see, there was a time when you look up to public office holders for good behavior, for examples of how to, propriety of conduct. But today, we have a trailer load of bad behavior from public office holders. And that is not helping our narrative. It is not helping our nation.
Right.
Today, you don't even know what is right and what is good in this nation, what is forbidden and what is not. So that, for me, is the biggest burden that we need to start to address beyond just the so-called total sanity that they want to reduce.
All right. Once again, let's give it another try. Dr. Oyebile, can you hear us? We're hoping we have him back with us. Doctor, are you there?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. So, I mean, I don't know if you heard the first question.
Can you hear me? I can hear you clearly.
Okay, it's kind of lagging again. So we're going to try and fix it once again, and we're really hoping we can have him before the end of this segment. Doctor, your network is lagging, but we'll try and see if we can get you back with us on air. All right. Now, Kingsley, the second part of it is the management of resources, which is having everybody raising eyebrows, because the truth is, I mean, some people are now saying that, okay, fine, you want to reduce how much you're spending on your entourage, but the money is going somewhere else, which is not any of the sectors that should be developed. So what is the point of that?
Yeah. You know, I don't know the amount Nigerians spent today on, because if you talk about management of resources, it has to be a national vision. It has to, are you reducing the money that Nigerians are spending on things they ought not to be spending money on because of bad governance? So let's take it one by one. Now, you have reduced the amount spent on travels. That's fine, fantastic. I mean, a round of applause for you, Mr. President. So what is the next thing you intend to do? What is the next priority? Do you still travel abroad for treatment? Will the Vice President travel abroad for treatment? Who is going to stop medical tourism? And how much are we going to spend on medical tourism? That's one. How much are we going to spend when visitors come to Aso Rock on feeding? You know, I was reading the other day, I was told in the White House, I think it was Michelle Obama that said this, that in the White House, if you come into the White House, there's a budget for what the president and the family, you know, what they consume.
What they eat, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if they have a guest, let's say Michelle Obama or whoever the current First Lady is, if she has a guest and that guest is not part of the budget, she will need to pay.
She'll pay, yeah. Yeah, and even if they have any cravings, like they want to eat something that is not on the menu, they pay for it.
You get the point now. So when you have to spend your money, if you are managing your money very well, you will, when you become a public office holder, it is only possible that you will extend that virtue, you know, into public office. So I'm looking at it from a holistic point of view. How much do we spend on hosting visitors in Aso Rock? And then the National Assembly. So I think Mr. President this should be a blanket policy. Let's look at the total budget, because like Yinka was trying to say, if this is not for us to talk, if this is not for the optics, can this become a value? Can we legislate this so that it trickles down and it becomes a lifestyle that we can all inculcate? How many vehicles do you travel with? Last time he was here, over 50 vehicles, for God's sake. Some say it is not his. And then, what were the rest? Who were they? Why would you have to accompany the president on such a jamboree where you see more than 50 SUVs? Who fuels these cars? Are they registered? Who pays the, you know, there's so much waste around. So if the president starts, and if this is real, if this is not a fluke, I think we can move it bit by bit, okay? Let's move it to the point where you're traveling, the Super Eagles is playing, AFCON is coming up next. Before you hear, you know, all the House of Assembly members, they tell you they want to accompany the supporters club to travel for this competition. And some will go with their girlfriends on the state budget. So let's begin. I mean, there's always a time to say, okay, all things have passed away. Let all things begin anew.
Yeah.
So if this is our turning point, I think it will be good.
Yeah.
So let it be touching everywhere. Let it be touching everywhere. And before you know it, our country will be sanitized. We can begin to, this can become a national value, a culture where you know that the moment you come into government, come in with your austerity cap, because you're going to account for everything that you spend.
So very quickly before I ask my next question, you did talk about moral bankruptcy, and I'll just quickly like to say that the bankruptcy cuts across every sector. We're looking at educational bankruptcy, we're looking at economic bankruptcy. Of course, there's the moral bankruptcy, bankruptcy in governance generally. So we're suffering that, and it's dealing us a heavy blow. And there's also the fact of traveling with so many people. I mean, for people who want to be secure enough, who want to not attract so much attention, that is calling for as much attention as possible. So I don't even think that there is security in that, to start with. But I think this is going to move me to my next question, which is looking at the administration, right? We cannot deny that even though some of the decisions made by the president since his assumption of office has been criticized, we still cannot deny that he's really hitting the nail on the head, coming up with different reforms, announce this, announce that, before he sinks in is announcing this. And I'm sure that even some people in the cabinet did not see this coming. So would you say that this is actually a welcome development?
Like I said, if this is not for us to talk, and next thing, we're back to where we were. If this is going to run deep, it is welcome. If this is the first step in a long journey of reviving what has died in us, which is our morality, our values, our sense of pride as a nation, cool. But you see, there's something you can't wish away. And this is one president that has a moral baggage. We can't sweep this under the carpet. The president is plagued by a lot of moral issues, and that will remain for a long time. I don't know what ideas he's going to come up with. I don't know what magic he's going to come up with, but the fact that you can't wake up tomorrow and not think about this president being somebody who had issues around certificate forgery. You can come up tomorrow, you can wake up tomorrow and not think about this president being somebody who has drug issues, whether it is alleged or not. There's so much. You can't come up tomorrow, you can't wake up tomorrow and not think about the fact that we still don't understand who the president is.
Right.
What is his real name? Where is he from? Who are his parents? How many kids has he got? These questions are, there are big question marks around these issues, and they will remain. But you see, if those around him are thinking properly, I think one of the things they can do is, okay, you know what? We have this as a burden, but can we concentrate and see how much governance we can provide and see if this can perfume, if this can act as a cologne to cover all of this. And the moment Nigerians can eat 3 times a day without scavenging,
right.
The moment Nigerians can pay their bills without selling their organs, I think sooner or later they'll forget that this is, this man has a baggage.
All right, that's it. I mean, this is a very interesting conversation, but I'm sorry, that's all we can take for this segment of the show. But thank you so much, Kingsley Obum Ebulim. I don't know if I got the name or you say you're not nice.
You're doing very well.
All right, a media communication specialist and social entrepreneur in Lagos. And of course, thanks in absentia as well to Dr. Olayinka Oyebile. I really would have loved to, hear his own opinion, but because of the network issues, we're hoping we can have him another time. He is the CEO of 00 Communications, and he's also a journalist. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for...
My pleasure. All right, you're still watching VSA. When we come back, we're going to take a look at how the intention to foster free trade among African countries has kind of backfired in Kenya. You didn't see that coming, neither did I. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, Kenyan authorities have since clarified that while the country grants visa-free entry, visitors need to apply for electronic travel authorization, which is ETA, by submitting documentation and paying a $30 processing fee. Now, the requirement also applies to countries whose citizens previously had unrestricted access to Kenya. Now, some foreigners are now criticizing the government, saying that the new policy has created confusion and has made travel to Kenya even tougher and costlier than it was before the visa-free. Now, I'll read out what an ex-user said, that's a Twitter user. And the person says, so until 24 hours ago, as a Malawian, I could just wake up, buy a ticket, and fly to Kenya in the afternoon, visa-free. Now, Kenya has removed visa for everyone visiting the country, but now everyone has to pay $30 travel authorization fee 72 hours before the travel. What hectic. That's what the person says. Anyways, joining us to have this conversation, we're now joined by Dr. XN Iraki, Associate Professor, University of Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you, Dr. Iraki, for joining us. All right, Doctor, I do remember that this was a movement that kind of sparked the interest of not just Kenya now, a lot of other countries. I mean, some countries have even, passed the law, the visa-free and all that, removed the visa requirement and allowing for African countries, other people from African countries to move freely within the country. And I do remember the passion with which the president of Kenya, William Ruto, did speak about this and how it can help not just the countries now, but even the youths, make a living, develop better trading relationships, and even interconnection. So how did this good initiative backfire so quick? Because now people are complaining about the visa-free initiative. It was supposed to be better, less tedious, less cumbersome, but now people are complaining that it's even more stressful. How did that happen?
Good afternoon. Yesterday or the day before yesterday, I talked with a foreigner who was come visiting the country. And he told me how difficult it is to apply for ETA. But I think at the beginning of it, the idea was very noble. The idea was great, that it would be very easy to come and visit the country. The president said that Kenya is the cradle of mankind, so people should not have any problem coming to visit their home. So I think from the root of it, it was a great idea. But I think the problem is how it has been implemented, the technical part of it. So you have to apply 3 days in advance, you have to upload a lot of documents, and people asking, why would it be so tedious, yet it was supposed to be very easy to come and visit home? So I think if we can streamline the application so that it is much easier, maybe you can do it within 24 hours, I think it's a great idea. But I think the biggest backlash has been from that's Malawian or other countries where you visit Kenya without any visa. You just need to get a flight and come to Kenya. Now they have to fill out ETA. So I think while the idea was well-intentioned, in fact, there was a prediction that we are going to get something like 4 million and a half tourists in the next few years. I think the implementation has not been as smooth as expected. We need to streamline it.
Right. Now, talking about the electronic travel authorization, why is that very necessary and why does it take so much time and, people having to apply 72 hours before the journey?
I suspect it might be a security issue that you want to know who is coming to your country. You want to know who is visiting your country. But other countries that use ETA, I don't think they're that complicated. Because when I talk to people who have visited this country, they are applying for ETA. They tell me that when they want to go to other countries that are visa-free, like Singapore or other countries, they say it is hassle-free. It is very straightforward. You apply, and then within a few hours, you are pre-authorized. So I think at the end of the day, we need to maybe learn from the others, benchmark with the other countries that are using that policy, so that people find it easier to visit the country, whether they are visitors, whether they are coming to work, whether they are transiting. It should be as straightforward as possible. At the end of the day, the visa-free regime was supposed to bring more people, to make it much easier. But now people are complaining it's becoming more difficult. So I think there's a need to streamline the process.
Right. Now, one would say that Kenya did not intend for the travel process to be this stressful and, tiring. So are we going to say that there was no adequate preparation, or because it's still in its formative stages, it's having this hiccups and it's going to get better along the line? Or what is it?
I think everybody hopes that it's going to become better in future. But my suspicion is that we did not do enough preparation. We did not do enough dry run. Anytime you are coming up with a new management information system or the new ICT system, they should be pre-tested. Because rarely do you have a system like that one that has no mistakes, that has no bugs, use the computer language. There are always some glitches. So maybe we should have retested the system, or maybe learn it parallel with the old one until finally we face the old system and remain the new one. But for now, I think there's still some glitches that need to be removed. A lot of visitors are not very happy with it, but I hope those are just teething problems and they're going to streamline it and become an efficient system so that we get more tourists, we get more trade, and we create jobs for the Kenyans.
So, Dr. Iraki, in your own opinion, do you think that there is any chance that this would work in the long run? Or, I mean, it should be just taken out completely and then people should go back to what they're used to?
I think my wish is that it should work. I've been to other countries where it works. A very good example is Singapore. I remember the other day I visited Canada, and I realized that when you are getting to Canada, you don't meet in a migration officer. Just go with your visa, you scan your passport, and you get in. I remember the other day I also visited Taiwan, and when I'm leaving the country, I just scan my passport and you leave. And I think that's what people are looking for, that we are going to use technology to make visiting countries easier, to make it easier to get ETA, to get authorization. So my suggestion is we should not scrap it. We should just improve on it, because I believe it's a great idea. It can work. It has worked elsewhere.
Right. So talking about public perception, do you think that if the public complains about it enough, that the government will do something about it? Has there been any response from the government regarding the complaint of the public, or is it just been nothing from them?
I suspect the government is going to listen to the complaints of the users, and they are going to improve on it. The government of Kenya nowadays has become very sensitive to what citizens say, what people say, whether it is on Twitter or X, whether it is online. I think the government is likely to listen to what people are saying. And I can assure you, very soon there will be some changes. I remember Kenyans were also complaining that we should not let people come visa-free because the government is going to lose some money. But in my opinion, the money you get from visitors, from tourists, is much more than what the money that we get from visas. So I think, I will say it again, it's a great idea. Let's streamline it, let it work, and it will be for the good of the citizens, it will be for the good of the country.
Right. And in terms of creating awareness now, I mean, we do know that they're trying to operate a visa-free, travel, whatnot. Do you think that enough people are aware of these processes? Because some people might not even know about it until it's time to want to travel, and then they realize that there's a lot of process involved. So do you think that the government needs to do more to enlighten the people about the new travel plans that have been put into effect?
I think the government should do more to inform visitors who are coming to this country about the process and about the requirements. Because when the government said it is visa-free, everybody thought it's going to be very straightforward. It's going to be very easy. So when you come and try to get an ETA to Kenya and you find it more complicated than the previous system, people are asking, then what is this? You cannot come up with a new system that is more complicated than the previous one. So I think there should be more education on the expectations, what people are supposed to do. But I think the most important thing is to make it as easy as possible. New computer, new ICT systems are supposed to be easier to use than when we have human intervention. And that's the essence of coming up with this system, so that it is much easier. You can apply wherever you are, you can upload your documents. And I also hope that if you are going to be a second-time visitor, you don't need to give all the information you are asked for. The systems have memory, so that once you say you have been in Kenya before, all that information is uploaded and becomes easier for you to apply for your ETA. But computer systems should be as easy as possible, as friendly as possible, and that's the essence of computer systems and ICT.
All right. Now, how would you say that Kenya can balance the desire to increase African trade, intra-African trade, as opposed to the desire to also want to make sure that there is enough security in the borders for the country as a whole? So there's the disparity now between increasing trade and relationship and securing the country and the travel process as a whole. How can the balance be established?
I was reading the other day about how the Western countries cooperate with one another in terms of security, in terms of intelligence. So that if you look at Britain, Canada, and a few other countries, they share the intelligence about the people who travel, the people who visit, and so on. So I think what the government of Kenya and other countries, what the government of Kenya needs to do is to cooperate with other countries so that they share information about visitors, about travel. And that will make it much easier for somebody to get ETA, somebody to get authorization to travel from one country to another. At the end of the day, we want more trade. So that if I want to go and sell something in another country, if I want to source a raw material from another country, or even to go as a tourist, it should be as easy as possible. If you look at some reports from the Kenyan media, I think 2 days ago, Kenya is enjoying a very good trade surplus with a number of African countries. And what we need to do is to enhance that, so that there's more trade between Kenya, there's more trade between Kenya and other African countries, as opposed to other foreign countries. Charity starts at home. So let's work on this. Let's remind on that, so that at the end of the day, we have more people visiting this country, more trade, and we get jobs for the Kenyans and other African countries.
Okay. I think this is going to be my final question, but what do you think will be the economic implications of a visa-free entry policy into Kenya now on the country's tourism industry?
That is one thing we are looking forward to. Because if you look at the number of countries that visit this country, we have about maybe 1.5 billion tourists. We are targeting about 5 billion tourists. But in my opinion, if we make getting visa less hassle-free or less hassle-free, then probably we can target something like 10, 20 million tourists. And if we can get so many tourists in this country, we are going to get the foreign exchange. And that's one way probably to make the shilling much more stronger. If the shilling becomes much more stronger, then we are probably going to deal with inflation, and then probably inflation will go down. We are going to create more jobs. Because trade and tourism are the low-lying fruits in terms of economic growth. And that's what we should focus on.
All right, Dr. Exen Iraki, Associate Professor, University of Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for your time with us on VSA today.
Thank you, and have a good afternoon.